30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It is a beautiful Wednesday in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, I'll move a little step over there. There we go. And we welcome all of you in. It is a beautiful time of the year in October with all the leaves changing. It's good stuff. It's football season, and boy, is there a lot to talk about. Terry McCormick's going to be with us for basically the entire hour. Now, his update, obviously, is the beginning of it, where we'll get into some info, but then we'll also get into a lot of discussion of what is going on with the Titans, because there is a lot there to get into. Terry's Daily Titans Update is brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. She wants to be your mortgage lady. And even more than that, this week, she wants all of you to come see her at the Nashville Flea Market. She'll be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday near the front of Expo 1 to answer any of your mortgage or home buying questions. Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, joining us for his daily visit. So now we know what the answer always had to be. Will Levis, he's starting.
Yeah, it appears that way. I mean, I know Mike Vrabel said that he never said that Will Levis was going to be the starting quarterback, but the report from Ian Rappaport, the way things appear to be trending there, it sure does look like Will Levis is going to make his NFL debut on Sunday when the Titans host the Atlanta Falcons, as they also pose as the Houston Oilers, George.
Yeah, they're going to wear the throwbacks. By the way, J.J. Watt said today that what needs to happen as a Houston native, well, I guess as somebody who played in Houston for the Texans, he would like to see a scenario where they play Titans, Texans, and in whatever game gets designated, the winner gets to keep the old Love You Blue uniforms, because let's be honest, they'd be an improvement over what the Texans wear as well.
Absolutely. I mean, these are not two of the more attractive uniforms, the Titans and the Texans. And the Titans actually are scheduled to wear those Oiler uniforms a second time, and that's when the Texans come here in December, George.
I'm all for it. Let's put a little something on the line for that game. Terry, so we've got that out of the way for the moment, and I'm going to get into some questions about how this decision was arrived at, which I think people will find interesting. What else have you got?
Well, George, a couple of guys. Well, Ryan Tannehill spoke to us today, and he had a compression sleeve on his right ankle, and he confirmed that it is a high ankle sprain. And to me, you know, that's a red flag. That says he's not playing this week. Although, you know, nobody there will confirm that. But to me, that's just the type of injury that you cannot just step back out a week later and go out there and perform. He said that, you know, when he is able to play again, it will be determined by a couple of things. One, can he move around enough to protect himself so that he doesn't risk further injury? And two, can he step into throws? Because that's what caused that interception on that deep pass against Baltimore, where he was aiming for Chigakonko and that ball was a couple of yards short. He said he just couldn't step into the throw and push off that injured ankle.
Yeah, I feel bad for him, but you could see this coming all along with the problems the offensive line was having. Terry, just for the sake of time for the moment, anything else you've got that you want to get into?
Well, it's going to be interesting, too. Nicholas Petit-Ferrer is going to be your left tackle. He's already been informed of that. Vrabel said that he was working with the first team. He did that. So that's going to be interesting to see how well he does in that spot. Certainly probably couldn't be much worse than what Andre Dillard had put out there the first 6 games. So basically a change there on the offensive line. We'll see how that plays out and see if there's any improvement.
Okay, in about 10 minutes, we'll get back with you and we'll go hot and heavy into the latest installment of State of the Union.
Sounds good.
I can see you're excited. Let's check in with Kelly Holcomb. Oh, by the way, I need to say that again. Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update, brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. Not only does she want you to be her mortgage lady, but you can come see her this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Nashville Flea Market. She will be near the front of Expo 1 to answer any mortgage or home buying questions you may have. Now, let's check in up in Murfreesboro or down in Murfreesboro, as the case may be. Kelly Holcomb joins us. How did last night go?
Well, George, it was fun. There was a lot of folks there, and it was a good time. He's a good guy, good down to earth guy. I think I might have said this yesterday, but I didn't realize he's from Williamsville, New York, and that's where I used to live when I played for the Bills, which is kind of crazy.
And he knew who you were.
He said he did, but you know how that goes. I'm not sure. He was in high school when I was one of the quarterbacks there, so I don't. He was a Bills fan. He grew up a Bills fan, and he was when I asked him about that, he said there was 2 times that the Bills had the opportunity to get me and they didn't. He's like, that's where I wanted to go. He said I wanted to be a Buffalo Bill, and
yeah.
He said they passed on me in the draft, and then that's when New England picked me up, and then they had an opportunity to get him in, I guess, in free agency, and we're not able to do that. So, but it was a cool night, man. He was a good interview. He was very articulate in what he said, and really, he didn't answer the Giselle question though. I told you that I was going to ask him. I said, we all want to know about Tom Brady, but there's a lot of us that want to know about Giselle. What's up with that? That's right. He kind of dodged that question. I told him beforehand I was going to do that, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'll answer that," but he didn't. But it was a good night, and it was for a good cause. They raised a lot of money for the Boys and Girls Club of Rutherford County,
which is a very strong organization that does a lot of really good stuff. Yeah. So, congratulations to them. Kudos to you for your willingness to do that. Billy.
George.
Do we have an update?
We do.
Do we really?
Did y'all watch any baseball last night?
I did not, but I was getting out-by-out updates. Let me put it that way.
I did, man. I was excited for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I can't believe that the 2 road teams that were down 3-2 in both series won both those games away. That's unbelievable to me, and especially going to Philly and how that nasty crowd is, but they shut them up early on.
Yeah, I was at the Preds game, and of course it went late because that puck drop was at 8:15, and we went out in the lobby in between intermissions, during intermissions, and just went out there and watched it. There's a lot of interest, and I think a lot of it stems from Braves fans wanting the Phillies to lose.
Oh yeah,
I mean that's a lot of it, but they will play the Rangers.
Did somebody say something to me? Oh yeah, you better believe it.
So game 1, 7:00 on Friday in Arlington. It's already getting rolling. So I think they'll go. Will they go Friday, then Saturday, and then break?
Friday, it's a 2-3-2.
2-3-2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if any of you are home watching it Friday night, they will likely bring both teams out on the field, and do the introductions of the starting lineups. And our buddy Chuck Morgan will be that person. Chuck Morgan, the first PA voice of the Nashville Sounds back in the late 70s, also the voice of the Grand Ole Opry for several years. And if you listen to our open that Kelly has done nothing but complain about, Chuck Morgan is the voice on that.
He's that guy. Well, maybe we can get back in touch with him so we can fix something, fix it up a little bit, add somebody in there. Can we get that going there, Billy?
His reaction to that, let me just read you his reaction. Chill out, Francis.
Relax, Francis.
Relax. Thank you. Thank you, Billy.
We've got some college football news yesterday. According to Pete Thamel, the AAC has voted to add Army into the league as a football-only member, with the sides working toward the Black Knights joining in 2024. So they will be a replacement. They'll serve as a replacement for SMU, who's obviously joining the ACC next year. But they're going to ensure that they keep Army-Navy played at the end of every season. And Navy, of course, is now in the AAC. So now Army's in the AAC.
It all comes down to this phrase, Billy.
Yep.
One man's treasure is another man's trash. Wasn't good enough for SMU. They got all their J.R. Ewing wannabes together. They collected a buttload of money, and off they go to the ACC, and that opens the door for Army.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yes, I'm sure you were.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll put it this way.
Very philosophical.
I'll put it this way. I'll put it in terms that Kelly can understand. Okay? What I consider a good round of golf, you would absolutely go, no, I want no part of it.
Yeah, I'm like, if I shot what George shoots, I probably would seriously consider hanging up the clubs.
Well, that's wonderful.
I mean, you can only hit it 150 yards with your driver, George. I'm out on that, dude. Hopefully I'm doing that at 80, man. You know what I'm saying?
I'm closer to 80 than you know.
Earlier today, Matt Rule made some comments. He was asked, every coach is being asked about sign stealing now, of course. And it's interesting the difference between, NFL type guys, Matt Rule coming from the NFL. I meant to clip what he said, but he got to basically in the NFL, Kelly, the headset, basically in the helmet, yada, yada, yada. He wants that in college. He basically said,
it's coming.
He said,
it's absolutely coming.
He said it's stupid how in college they're still doing signs, and he basically shrugged it off. He said, I mean, he didn't condone Michigan at all for doing this. I mean, I'm trying to get at is how many other places are doing this.
I don't think. Look, I could be really naive about this. I don't think there's a lot of what Michigan is doing that's going on.
How do you know that?
Well, you don't know that. But let me ask you this. The program you cover, do you think they're doing it?
I mean, to an extent. I just think to a certain level.
Well, now, wait a minute. Think about what you're saying. What do you mean to an extent?
Everyone's stealing signs.
No, everybody is trying to steal signs in a legal way.
Yeah, but they're probably not buying tickets, though, in advance to go to the game to have somebody sit up in the stands doing that. I don't know if they're going to that level.
Let me do it in baseball terms. There are players in dugouts that can figure things out by pitching mannerisms. Does a guy on a curveball take his glove up a little higher? Okay? And he may give the signal to the guy at second base, curveball's coming. That's totally different than sneaking a camera out to center field and looking straight in. When he sees the catcher go one, that's a fastball. They're totally different.
It's about the method.
It's about the spirit and the intent. Michigan has been cheating their butt off. If this stuff is true, and I think we now have every reason to think it, Jim Harbaugh is headed to the NFL because somebody's not going to put up with this.
They're after him, man. I'm telling you. Somebody's after him, and I'm going to say it's the state school that's right below him. I mean, Ohio State. There's no question that's who's doing it.
The Green Boys.
That's what.
Now, wait a minute. Whoa! You're talking Ohio State.
Absolutely.
Is it possible they're getting financial aid from Michigan State?
Oh my God.
Common enemies.
Yes.
Look, here's the thing. What he's I've come to the point there is no way this is going on without Harbaugh knowing it.
So you think he's
I'm going to use the Helen Keller thing. When you see this film footage, that the minute something happens, all of a sudden you see this guy on the sideline start making a bunch of signals, Harbaugh would have to be Helen Keller to not know that's going on.
Yeah.
He would have to be blind as a bat. At some point, if he truly didn't know it, you don't think at some point when he sees that, he doesn't go up to that guy and go, "What are you doing? Is this your deodorant isn't working? What are you doing?" And so now that it's becoming more and more clear, the Big Ten coaches are going to go off. At some point, you're going to see one of them come out and really lash out at Harbaugh. And I'll be honest.
Does it happen before the season ends, though?
I kind of think it does. Because I think every coach that plays Michigan is going to ask, they're going to get asked, what are you doing to get around the fact these people are a bunch of cheaters? Kelly, anything you disagree with there?
Well, I think you're right, George. It's I just can't imagine a guy going to a game, buying tickets, and then filming stuff like that. I've heard of things like that. I've heard of stuff like that in high school. I heard about something like that a year ago, and it does happen. I mean, I'd say everybody indulges in it. I mean, like I said, I used to go over there. And a guy got me on it. When I first came to the NFL, I didn't think anything about it. But then a guy got me on it. And when you're sitting over there, I mean, it's just like baseball. You're trying to get some intelligence from the other team. And then if you can pick up on something, yeah, I mean, if you can figure out what they're doing, if they're going to put it out there for everybody to see and not hide it, it's fair game.
Is our update complete?
It is.
Good. No, I mean, nothing. The update was quite good. I didn't mean it that way. I'm not Kelly.
Yes, you did, George. You meant it exactly that way.
No, I did not mean it that way.
I would file a complaint if I was you, Billy.
Exactly. Where do you file it?
To HR somewhere. I don't know who that would be.
Good. I want to see how that works. After the break, Titans State of the Union. Terry McCormick rejoins us. Trust me when I tell you, it's going to be interesting. Stay tuned.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-6666 7983 or log on to DonleyTimmons.com.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. It is time for a Titans State of the Union. And Billy, if you will, let's go ahead and do a 3-shot and get Terry in there as well, because I want Kelly to be able to weigh in on all this as we're going through it to start with. So, Terry, we now think we know that Will Levis is going to be the starting quarterback Sunday against Atlanta. And this continues what has been a crazy 72 hours in Titan territory. I guess deep down, I have come to believe that Rand Carthon saw things exactly the way you and I saw them. About 3 weeks ago in Cleveland, he raised his hands and said, "Oh crap, this team isn't going anywhere. We're nowhere close to having the pieces to get this done." Would you agree that that's what it looks like Rand Carthon must have thought?
I can't speak for Rand, but it certainly looks that way, that this team is one. I think he probably examined the current roster the way it is, what tradable assets he might have had, and then the fact that, too, you're talking about a team that didn't go into 2024 with a whole lot of draft picks. I think they had 5 or 6, but they do have a lot of cap space to work with, somewhere around 80 million or so. So I think that all those things considered, I believe Rand Carthon is trying to lay the groundwork for the future, knowing that 2023, even if this team did catch a spark and they went 9-8, are they really good enough to do any damage once they got to the postseason? I seriously doubt it.
Okay, so Kelly, what I'm about to do in court would be, somebody would say he's badgering the witness. Okay, but we're not in court, so I can probably get away with it. Terry, I've got a hard time believing that if and when Rand Carthon went to Mike Vrabel and said, "Look, let's put our cards on the table. My cards say we're not going anywhere. We're not nearly good enough." Do you think Vrabel looked at Carthon and said, "I agree. If you need to trade Byard, do it. If you need to trade Derrick Henry, do it. If you need to trade..." That just doesn't feel like Vrabel to me.
It doesn't, because Mike is wired to always be competitive and to try and drain every last bit out of any roster that he has. And I think that you saw that work a couple of years ago when they had all the injuries in 2021. But then when it happened again last year, they weren't able to overcome it. And I think that a lot of these draft picks that didn't work out, that didn't develop the way that they had hoped or the way that they had thought, a lot of that's come home to roost now, George. They're not getting anything from their first couple of picks in 2020 and their first couple of picks in 2021. In fact, the entire 2020 draft class is gone with the exception of Christian Fulton. And the way he's played, they're not re-signing him this offseason. He's going to be gone too. So that really comes back to bite you in so many ways. And when you're forced to fill as many holes as they had in the offseason and with the cap space that they didn't have, you go shopping at Goodwill, you go shopping at Walmart. You know, you're not shopping at the high end places. You're shopping at the bargain centers, trying to find somebody to fill these holes and hoping that a few of them work out. And that's what they were forced to do, and it hasn't worked.
Okay, so let me try it this way. Was this such an important move, the getting rid of Byard and potentially starting down the road of others, that this went all the way up to Amy Strunk?
I'm sure she knew. I'm sure they wouldn't trade off an icon of the franchise without her saying, you know, that knowing about it and giving the nod that it was okay. I think, you know, one of the things, and I'll throw this out there, you make of it what you will, but when Kevin Byard, you know, he and Carthon kind of got sideways with each other in the offseason over the pay cut deal.
No, they didn't kind of, they did.
And Byard finally agreed to take a restructured pay cut deal where a $4 million bonus would come back to him next March, you know, to make up the difference and restore him to the money that he had. And then when he was traded away and he sent out the statement thanking, you know, Amy Adams Strunk, Mike Vrabel, John Robinson, trainers, you know, assistant coaches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even thank Mike Mularkey for having a hand in drafting him, and John Robinson. No mention of Rand Carthon there. So take that for what it's worth.
Okay, so let me go a step farther. Vrabel is a smart guy. This guy didn't just fall off a turnip truck. And in most settings, he's a pretty good coach. He very seldom gets caught in press conferences with something that he shouldn't have said. Yesterday, when he was asked something to the effect of, you know, was this trade because of your record? He said, absolutely not. And then Kuharski then said, wait a minute. If you were 5-1, this trade would have happened. And I think, if I remember correctly, Vrabel said yes.
No, Vrabel said that he wouldn't deal in hypotheticals.
Okay, you're right. He did say that. So, is it possible that this is a one-off? Carthon not real happy with Byard, and Byard equally is pissed off at Carthon, and that this is a one-off and nothing's going on?
It's possible that that's it, George, but I don't think that's the real reason. I think that this team has come to the realization that 2023 is they're not going to be playing for the Lombardi Trophy. I think they've come to the realization that they have to get younger, they have to get faster, they have to see what some of these younger guys, namely Will Levis and Tajay Spears and people like that, what these guys can do to see if they can be building blocks for this team going forward. Because, George, you and I have had this discussion before. They can't put this product that they are putting out there right now on the field when they go into that new stadium in 4 years.
Okay.
If they have a similar bad/boring product, that new stadium is not going to be any more full than Nissan Stadium would be if they keep running that out there.
And one of the lessons to be learned in sports is you can get away with boring if you win at a high enough level. Nobody complained when they went to Baltimore, won that playoff game, and threw 7 passes or whatever it was. It was a very small amount. But if you're boring and you suck, ooh, that's a bad combination. So that's just one of those little lessons in sports that boring and bad will get you in big trouble. Kelly, you're listening, probably going, where the hell's he going with all this? If you got anything to chime in on, do it.
I'm sitting here thinking, like, who do you think, Terry, I mean, is the blame for all this? Because if you look back, I look, obviously, being on the show now, I have to concentrate on the Titans now. But like for the past 5 or 6 years, just like you said, they've got one draft pick there from the 2020 class, and it's Christian Fulton. Like, is all this kind of lay at the lap of John Robinson? I mean, Mike Vrabel was in there too. So who is like at some point when you're a head coach, and this happens everywhere, when the heat gets on you, you're going to disperse it somewhere else, or you're going to fire somewhere else. So where does this lie in the lap of somebody? Is everything being put on John Robinson?
Well, it certainly appears that that's the way they're doing it. Given that he was fired last December very unceremoniously while the team was still 7-5 and in first place in the AFC South. So that's the easy way out. But everybody in that organization has some sort of culpability in terms of why this team is where it is. Yes, John Robinson might have drafted Isaiah Wilson, and that was a terrible pick. But there should have been a scouting staff that warned him not to do it. There should have been, with some of these other players. Some of these guys, if you draft them and you know that they're an injury risk, if they've had a history like Caleb Farley has, like a couple of these other guys have, then you've got to raise the red flag when you're in those draft meetings. And then some of it has to be on the coaching staff, because somebody somewhere, when this guy is a first or a second or a third round pick, somebody somewhere liked him well enough to say this guy has the talent to make it. Why didn't it happen? Well, some of that's on coaching. Maybe they're not the right fit for what you do. Maybe you didn't draft. Maybe you drafted a guy to be a 3-4 outside linebacker, and he's better as a 4-3 defensive end, so he doesn't really help you as much as he can. All kinds of examples of that. Quarterbacks, if you draft quarterbacks and you put them in harm's way before they're ready, Malik Willis, you stunt their growth for a time. Willis is still trying to learn, still trying to feel his way around the league, and the only thing he got last year by being thrust into the Titans starting role was bad experience. So now you have to undo that as well as redo him right so that he can compete maybe down the line and give you something.
So go ahead.
George, sorry. So with the Terry is so with the quarterback deal coming up this week, we don't, and I agree with you. I don't think Ryan Tannehill is coming back this week, obviously. So do you really believe that he's going to play both those guys in the game? I mean, he's still holding true to that, but don't you have to, like, you always hear the cliche, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't really have one. And like, is he going to play both of those guys, or is he just going to throw Will Levis out there? Let's see what he's got for a whole game. And then if he gets hurt, then we can put Malik Willis in.
Yeah, Vrabel, I think, was a little bit being coy. He said that they might send them in with the plays. I'd alternate them for a series or two. What are they doing? They're going to look like Oklahoma in 1976, running the wishbone and just put another quarterback in just whenever you feel like it? That's not going to work. What I think probably could end up happening is this. I think it's Will Levis's game. But if you remember Vrabel's first year, and Arthur Smith was his offensive coordinator then, and they're facing off against the Falcons on Sunday. But you remember when Marcus Mariota got hurt early in the season against the Texans and was going to be out for a game or two. In that game, their option at quarterback was Blaine Gabbert, and they obviously didn't want to put the entirety of the offense on his shoulders at that time. So what did they do? That's when we first saw, I believe, the Wildcat with Derrick Henry. That's where we saw Kevin Byard throw a fake punt touchdown from midfield to score and give them a big boost when they needed it, and it wasn't coming from the offense. So I think there are packages and plays that are in for Malik Willis to take advantage of the unique skill set that he has. But I have a feeling this is going to be Will Levis's game.
Was this at all a business decision where others weighed in, and I'm thinking of a Burke Nihill, and you know, that may be a stretch, but you've still got 6 home games left, and you're a boring football team. The only thing that can liven any of this up is for us to find out about Will Levis. It's the only thing left that's even remotely interesting in Titanland. So did anybody say, look, for ticket purposes, for the general how this is all going to play out to the end of this season, this is the move you have to make?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't see Mike Vrabel taking an edict like that very well.
I'm not saying it's an edict. I'm saying that others weighed in to say, here's something you need to think about.
Well, I think what it comes down to is I think everybody in the organization is probably going, it's time to see what this kid can do, because you've got to have some idea of who he is and what he can be before you head into this offseason, because you're going to get into a situation where you're going to have, some options here. Assuming that Ryan Tannehill doesn't come back and they've made no overtures to offer him a contract, you're going to have some options. You're going to roll with Will Levis or Malik Willis and try to improve the supporting cast around them to rebuild this thing. You're going to draft somebody else depending on where you are in the pecking order for the draft. If you're in a position to get a Caleb Williams or a Drake May, you're certainly going to explore that opportunity, even though you've got other maybe bigger holes to fill. Or are you going to go with a stopgap? Are you going to go sign somebody who's got an expiring contract, a Baker Mayfield, a Kirk Cousins, somebody like that, to get you through until you're comfortable with another quarterback being ready, like Levis or Willis or somebody you draft on down the line? Those are basically the options that you have. Go get a veteran, roll with one of the 2 guys you got, or look and start to draft somebody else.
So if Levis plays on Sunday, he's the starter. And by the way, I happen to think this is the perfect time. Home game, better situation than being on the road. The Falcons, they're not the 49ers. This is a good, fair test. So, Terry, what is it that they fear? Because there appears to be something they fear about putting Will Levis in, that even though you're out there every day, you get limited looks. What is it you believe they fear about this?
Well, it's probably a couple things. One, he could get beat to heck behind this offensive line and go the way of Anthony Richardson and not have much of a rookie season. Or 2, given Vrabel's competitiveness and given the fact that they still want to try to win games, if the kid's not ready, and we saw that with Malik Willis last year, if he happens not to be ready and he goes out there and he's 12 of 28 with 3 interceptions, then they're going to go, oh my, what's going on now?
Okay, let's go to the break on that, and we'll get into if they now are in fire sale mode, who's next? Stay tuned.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458, or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
We welcome all of you back. You can see the three-way screen. We've got Terry McCormick with us for what we're dubbing, I guess, a State of the Union of the Titans. Billy asked the question yesterday. I thought it was a great question. I'm going to ask it now. Why, if Rand Carthon is the one that pulled the trigger on Kevin Byard, why was Mike Vrabel the one that had to explain it to the media?
Fair question. That's definitely a fair question. But, in a tradition that kind of started with John Robinson, they don't make the general manager available nearly as much as they used to back in the days when Floyd Reese was out there, George. And that's just how it is.
So Floyd Reese he was available.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I could pick up the phone and call. I could pick up the phone and call his number, and the secretary would put me right through to him. Unless he was in the middle of doing something, they'd put me right through to him.
It was a much more open deal back then. when Robinson got here, I guess I would call it the Patriot way, which is much more limited access. And that's great if you're winning at a huge level.
Right.
But when you're not, then it allows people to say, well, what the hell? You know,
Yeah.
do you want to sell tickets or not? Because media is the conduit to the fan.
Boom.
So, conduits to the fan. Who's next? And Kelly, you jump in on this as well.
Hey, it's like the movie Facing the Giants. Y'all seen that? One of the coaches after the big scene's like, all right, who's next?
Yep.
Who's next?
Well, I mean, a lot of people are pointing to Derrick Henry, and you've already gotten rid of one franchise icon, and certainly, Derrick Henry would be attractive to some teams out there that might want to make a push and upgrade their running game. But if they trade him, then they're going to have a lot more explaining to do in exactly what their reasoning was, because Henry and Byard are probably the two most beloved players on this roster right now. And, there are other guys that have some value. DeAndre Hopkins would have value if they wanted to move him. Danico Autry might help somebody if they wanted him. Christian Fulton, who we've already talked about, could, probably wouldn't go anywhere and be a starter as a cornerback, but he could be a depth corner who could help a contender perhaps. It's a situation where I guess it's just, what can you get and is it worth it, in terms of draft capital and things like that? Because you're talking, if you're going full-blown rebuild, then, there are lots of options out there, including Ryan Tannehill, once he's healthy, if they wanted to move on from him. But I don't know that he's good. The team that takes him might have to do it a little bit of buyer beware, knowing that he's not probably going to be healthy by the deadline, which is next Tuesday.
Kelly, isn't a Derrick Henry move the one that loses a locker room?
Man, I think so. I really do. I think that people are already questioning the Kevin Byard deal in the locker room. And then if you do something like that, absolutely, you're going to have to answer a lot of questions as a coach from your team if you do that. So my whole deal with this, Terry, is, and this comes down to the business side of all this. Like Kevin Byard was, he was going to, it was $14 million against the cap for next year. So why not try to go out and get something for him now, because he's not coming back for that next year. I mean, he's a safety. So, and another question I want to ask you is, who do you think, and I don't even know if you would know this, but like, who made the first call? Do you think that the Titans made the call to Philly, or were trying to fish Kevin Byard out there? Or do you think Nick Sirianni, with his relationship with Kevin Byard, because I know that he was the one that suggested he get Reed Blankenship. Kevin Byard told him about him, and then they ended up getting him as a rookie free agent. Now the guy's starting. So he's obviously had a relationship with Kevin Byard. So are they the ones that call down here to say, hey, we might give them some draft picks if we get a really good safety? They might have fallen out of love with Terrell Edmonds. So just how did that go down?
Well, I was told that the Eagles initiated the contact, that Kevin Byard and his side, he wanted to stay a Titan. He wanted to be a Titan for life, a career Titan. That he did not request that the Titans trade him, didn't request that they release him, didn't request any of that. He was willing to see this through and try to become a legacy player, if you will. But when the Eagles came calling and they made an offer that the Titans liked, the Titans moved on.
It's a business deal. That's what this game is about. And I'm reading all this stuff that the fans are upset, and I can understand that the fans are upset. But like, he's going to cost. He's probably not going to be back next year anyway, unless he restructures his contract. So that was just one of those deals where, hey, let's act now. And if somebody's wanting him, let's get some draft picks in the process and go about our business later. I mean, I understand that, but that's hard for the average fan to understand.
It is.
But and part of the reason, Terry, is because, and this is not all Rand Carthon's problem, they suck at drafting. Their track record over the last 5 years is abominable, whatever that means.
Yeah, it's not very good. And here's the crazy thing. like Kelly brought up about Kevin Byard could very much be a rental in Philadelphia. He's got a $4 million roster bonus. He's going to be 31 years old. They're likely going to have him this year. If he plays well, they may want to redo his deal. If he plays just okay, they may want to move on from him. And then Kevin Byard, would be free to sign anywhere. How crazy would it be if he decided to come back here for less money?
Never know, man. You never know.
Isn't part of this right now?
Isn't it snowing outside right now?
Isn't part of this right now, Terry? George, you mentioned losing the locker room. Aren't you going to lose some of the locker room in a rebuild? Part of that is the players accepting the fact that you are rebuilding.
Well, that's probably a better question for Kelly. How would you react if you go into a locker room and they're shedding veterans? You're left there. They're shedding veterans. You're starting a rookie quarterback. You're, starting other young guys here, and the season's only a third of the way gone. What is the reaction of the veteran players as they watch that unfold?
Well, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be pissed off. But that's what makes the NFL, because all these guys that go out there and play every week, even though they're on this losing team, and even though they say they're on a rebuild, that I've got to go out there and I've got to put good stuff on the film, because if I don't and I start lagging around, I start playing bad, then I don't have an opportunity to make money when I get to be a free agent. So that's where the NFL differs. College is a little bit different. You need to play that way all the time. That's the trouble that you get when you get all these guys, these big signing bonuses, man, because if you get a guy that doesn't have good character and you give him the keys to the Cadillac right off the bat, and he comes in and gets an attitude and he has character issues, who's to say the guy's going to play? So it would upset me if I saw that happening, but I'm just not sure. And I want to think, Terry, do you really think this is a rebuild decision right now? Now, I say if they get rid of somebody else, yes, absolutely. But I just think this was a business move right now. And then if they do something else here in the next couple of weeks by getting rid of a Derrick Henry or a DeAndre Hopkins, yeah, they're in a rebuild. But I just can't say that with this one trade.
Yeah, and that's possible. I mean, it could be, like you said, a business decision, a soft rebuild, so to speak.
Right.
But, I think with this Titans team, I think they're almost at the point where they're very close to needing a hard reset. If they lose Sunday to the Falcons, they lose Thursday in Pittsburgh, then they go into the mini bye at 2-6.
Yeah.
And then, you're like, okay, it's time to see somebody else. The problem is after Sunday's game, the trade deadline falls in between those two games. So if they're going to make any more moves, they've got to hurry up and make them and make those decisions by next Tuesday.
Isn't the real answer, though, to the question of how the players react up to Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel, that I know if I'm a player and I've just watched Kevin Byard shipped out of here, I want to know what's really what. And I want to hear it from the people who are making the decisions. Now, if their attitude is, screw you, you're an employee, then you're going to lose them. But if you walk in that locker room, whether it's Rand Carthon, Mike Vrabel, or both, and say, guys, we're just going to tell you what's going on, here it is, then you got a better chance. It's all about communication.
Sure. Absolutely. And I think that the message that Mike Vrabel's trying to send to that locker room is we're still going out and trying to compete. This is professional football. There's a business side of it, but there's also an aspect of it to where your job is to play as hard as you can, try to win as many games as you can, and then let the chips fall where they may.
But, Terry, that's a bunch of coach speak BS. This team didn't get better for this year by that move.
No, absolutely not.
And there's a player who will say that. Cut the crap. Tell me what's really going on.
Say that. But you know how coaches are. Coaches are very much there's part psychologist in terms of trying to get guys to play better, get guys to do things and have confidence and that sort of thing. But, the players aren't dumb either. They know this roster didn't get better by shedding Kevin Byard, and the thing of it is Vrabel's the one that's got to walk that line and try to keep this thing competitive, even though they've lost Kevin Byard. But in some sense, the way he would preach it, it's the same thing that if Kevin Byard had broken his leg and was out for the year. You're playing without him.
That's true.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Because as a player, you know what caused this. This wasn't caused by a tackle where a fibula went one way or the other. This was caused because management made a decision.
But George, you understand that as a player. I mean, things happen sometimes in the locker room that you can't control.
Okay.
All you can control is yourself. And then when they let somebody go, I mean, that's just part of the business, man. You have to move on. You have to go. You have to move on with it.
But, Kelly, they have the right to know, is this a rebuild? Is this, a problem between you and Byard? What was this?
But
they
do
have
they
the right
really
to know that?
But do they really? I mean, they're getting paid to do a job, but do they really? I mean,
well,
I don't know.
If you want it to go well and not lose the locker room, you got to communicate a little bit.
Well, and I agree with that. I agree that you have to, but like sometimes things happen in a locker. And here's the deal now, George. Some guys that are really close with Kevin Byard, they cared a bunch, but some guys are like, hey, I mean, I love him, man. But like, I've got a team, I got a job to do, and I got to go on about my business.
Terry, thank you for State of the Union.
Yeah, and that's the only way the players can approach it, George. Any other way that they would approach it is not conducive to what they have to do to get things done.
Right.
We'll see what happens on Sunday. Sure looks like Will Levis for now. Right. Terry, thank you as always. I think we may have lost Terry there. Okay, after the break, stat of the day. We may need Danny Evans to help us, although our record lately has been a little more respectable. Yeah, we're getting there. And then Danny will join us to talk about a World Series that, if we're honest, not a one of us saw coming.
And I don't think Fox wanted.
Well said. Thank you.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue. This is fun, It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over.
All right, I'm here with my buddy Chip Ward from Lincoln Home Loans. And Chip, it's football season, and it feels like it's moving season every time of the year, especially here in Nashville. Tell us about your business, Chip, and kind of introduce people to who you are and what you do here in the Nashville area.
Well, you're exactly right, Billy. It is definitely moving season, as it is most times, especially right here after Labor Day. Kids are back in school, and people are starting to think they want to get settled in before the holidays. And so what we are doing is right now we are getting a lot of people pre-approved for home loans. Inventory has ticked up a little bit. You know, it has been down, but it's rebounding a little bit. And right now is a good time to buy.
Chip, real quick before I let you go, tell people how they can reach you. And if someone is interested in your business, how would they reach out to you?
Well, sure. At Lincoln Home Loans, you can reach me at 615-500-7579. My URL for my application page is chipward.net, and my email address is simply chip@chipward.net. And so I'd love to hear from anybody. I can answer any questions about the whole home buying and financing process.
Top of the hour on a Wednesday. Danny Evans coming up, talking a little World Series, Rangers and DBacks, getting started on Friday. But first, stat of the day, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards in Shelbyville. You can find them at 204 East Depot Street. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday, from noon to 5. Let's go ahead and get there. There it is. From noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call, 931-492-4304. Here we go. Let's see what Matthew's got cooked up for us today. And I want to say it's baseball. It is.
Good. Let's blame it on Danny.
Blame it on him.
The Diamondbacks made it to the World Series despite only having 84 wins in the regular season. Who are the only two teams to make the World Series with fewer wins in a season?
And I think I'm on to something on this. Let's bring Danny up on this. Danny, wasn't there a Cardinal team and wasn't there a Mets team?
Oh, he got it.
Yeah, the 1973 Mets won 83 games, and they went, and I believe they played Oakland. And the Cardinal team, I believe you're right, George. I think you're on a roll right now. You can hear the crowd. I think you're right. I think you got both of them.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, Kelly, before we reveal, would it be fair to say you have nothing to offer?
That'd be very fair to say.
What's the final answer?
Okay, we're going 73 Mets. And, Danny, are we going – what year was the Cardinals?
I don't know. They came in as a wild card. I don't know the year, but those are the two franchises.
Show us the correct answer.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. How about that?
We're pretty proud of ourselves.
Atta baby.
So we're now into the 3 o'clock hour, and we've got the guy that can talk baseball as good as any human being on this planet. I'll put him up with anybody. Danny, how are you?
I'm doing well, George. Kelly, how are you guys doing?
Danny, I've watched so much baseball in the past 2 weeks. I've watched more baseball than I have in the past 30 years. Can you believe that?
Well, yeah, I can believe it. I heard the instant replay requests last night about you, too, in the 7th inning. They said, what the heck is Kelly doing watching this ball game? Can we have a ruling? And they said, no, he's okay. We're going to let him keep doing this.
I got home, and that was the first thing I did. I was like, I got to get and watch that game. And I'm not saying that I was upset because I don't know how much of a Phillies fan I am right now. You know what I'm saying? And I was for the Diamondbacks, and I thought they might, but the way that they finished the game with those two pitchers, man, really good.
I'm with you, Kelly. I found myself rooting for Arizona myself. There's something about the Phillies I just don't like. Probably I don't like the city. That's probably the biggest thing. But I found myself definitely rooting for Arizona, and knowing the story of their general manager and what he went through with the passing of his wife, and he's a really good friend. I love him, and I have a lot of good friends there. I found myself the last couple nights rooting for Arizona.
So, can I steer it away from this for just a minute? Because, Danny, I know you're going to have a really good answer. I know you heard the end of the conversation that we had in the 2:00 hour. And I know that you, as a general manager, and before that, as an assistant GM, faced scenarios where you had to look in the mirror and say, who's kidding who? We're not any good. And talk to me about how hard that is. And my belief is if you don't communicate pretty openly with your players, that's how you lose a locker room.
Yeah, and it's how you lose the faith of the people following the team. And I want to preface it, guys. I'm really not completely sure of the franchise you were talking about.
The Titans.
Okay, and I think you guys both know I don't follow, but I follow football the way Kelly circa 2022 followed baseball. So I don't know really what's going on there at all, but I can say this. One of the biggest challenges of an organization is being transparent with their fans without being overly transparent and without being harmful to your long-term vision, your strategy. It's a real delicate tightrope. But when you come in with expectations that are loftier than you can attain, one of the hardest things to do is to come clean that you're not there. That starts with your head coach, your manager. It starts with your field staff. It goes to your players, and it goes to everybody around the team on a daily basis, all the way through the business offices. And I think one of the hardest things to do in sports is tell the truth early to midway in the season when you still have hope, but the reality check is such that you realize that you're not going to be very good. And I'll tell you what, George, it happened in my second or third year, and it was a really good entry point for me as to not BS people about where you think you are. There's a lot of things that go on, injuries and whatnot. I think you have to communicate well with your field staff, but the players are delicate because you want the players to continue to perform on a high level. You may be anticipating trades or whatnot to keep their value up. And the challenge is that you don't, you don't really owe them a daily conversation, but the leaders in the long-term people with your club, I believe you do, and I always did. And it might have got me in uncomfortable situations at times, but I always found it was much better to be forthcoming about where I felt the club was than where I thought the club was months before.
So you would pick out the 4 or 5 leaders and have a meeting with them and then let them disperse it.
Did it many times, George. And many times it's something as simple as this. It's ordering pizza, sitting around and going, guys, what's going on here? I mean, what are we not doing that we should be doing better? Without the coaches, without the manager, just me. And it really gives an accountability to the veteran players. It also makes you as the leader very vulnerable. And there's a few times I felt that, and I took the criticism in the room. But what I wanted to know is why? Why did this thing not work? And sometimes you hear stuff that you never would have anticipated. And other times, George, it's exactly what you thought.
Wow. That is very interesting. And I don't know, is baseball more conducive to doing it, you think, than in football?
I wish I understood the football dynamics a little better, George. I just don't. But I can tell you in baseball, when you're playing 6 and 7 days a week,
Yeah.
You've got a really awkward situation in that you're seeing each other way too much when things are bad, and you can't get enough of each other when times are good. And when they're bad, I always wanted to know why. And I was never afraid of the why. A lot of people are. In fact, the majority of personnel people are. And I always felt I owed it to my staff, to the people in player development and scouting in the front office who assembled the club with me. But more importantly, ultimately, the owner is going to come to you. And he's going to sit down and say, what the heck happened here? I need some answers. That's not the time to go, well, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do some fact finding. I always wanted the answer. And having that conversation with some people, George, is not just awkward, it's downright horrible, because some people can't handle criticism and can't handle not attaining expectations. That could be the guy in the dugout. That could be the people in uniform. That could be the people on the scouting staff and in the front office. There's a lot of questions that some people just don't like. And I always felt that's my job. I have to ask those questions.
So let me bring Kelly in on a three-way deal here. Kelly, in
Yeah.
football, did you ever have a coach or a GM do that? Not hearing you. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, when I was in Cleveland, we had an advisory committee, which I was on, and our coach had that. But the frustrating thing about that is we would go up there and he would talk to us, and I don't know, we might have had pizza one day too, Danny. It feels like we had some food up there one time, but like it seemed like he had gotten that from somebody else, but he wasn't willing to listen. He would present all the questions and he would present all this stuff and act like we were part of it, but then when it came down to it, he never did anything about what we were talking about, So sometimes that kind of stuff happens, and I don't know. It's just it's not a good situation when you're put into that. When you've got a group of leaders there, and you've asked them to help the head coach, and then the head coach does not listen. So
yeah. And Kelly, did you lose trust at that point too? That
absolutely.
Hey, my voice isn't being heard, and as a result, why should I go out on that plank?
Oh, absolutely. We used to go back in it happened the first time, and then when he presented us with something else and he brought all the same people up, then we immediately went back to the locker room and started saying, this dude's not going to do anything about it. I don't even know why he still has this coming up there. I mean, it's like wasting my time. I just wasted an hour of my life that I'll never get back, and the dude's not going to listen to us.
Yeah.
Kelly, you do that 2 hours a day now.
So guys, if I could, when I first started with the Dodgers, I had a few of those meetings, and I realized if I didn't do anything after the first meeting, they were hollow. So what I said to the guys, and I think we had 7 guys in there, and the only other person I had in the room was Kim Eng. And I just said, all right, what is causing us all these problems? And what items do you want me to tackle? I don't work for you. I want to make that really clear. I don't work for you, but we as a collective unit work together. And I can get some of these things done. And in some cases, I might need some help from you. And one of them, if I could, George, they felt we were traveling with family too much. We had too many family trips. Every trip was a family trip. And when you're playing in Los Angeles and you're getting into cities at 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning, that just was not conducive to a really good road situation. So our guys said, can you help us? Can you, change the policy? And I said, absolutely. And our road record got a lot better.
Wow.
But I think as the leader of the operation, Kelly, if I walked away and I didn't do anything, why would anyone ever come to another meeting with me?
Correct. Well, I mean, yeah, that's a good question right there, because we're in football and we've always been told it's like a military, identity. Yeah, I mean, it's like you do what you're told in football, and that's kind of what we were told to go to. We were told to go to a meeting. We were asked to come to a meeting. Now, I remember when I first came in the NFL, and I was with a certain team that the coach was a lamed up coach, and he wanted to have a padded practice. And this was my first time, because I came from Coach Donnelly, George, and you know how Coach Donnelly is. And these dudes that were leaders of the team, I can remember them right now. I'm remembering that right now. But he tried to have a padded practice, and they had lost total respect. They knew he was going to get fired, and they was like, "We ain't going out there and pass, man. Everybody put on your hats." And we went out there in hats, man. And I was like looking around. I'm like, because I'd never been part of that before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And, he called for a padded practice, and we went out there in hats, man. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, this dude is totally lost the locker room. He's totally lost everything. And everybody knew he was going to get fired. So what can he say at that point? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's hard. In the challenge, guys, there's only so much you can say outside those walls. There's people in the media, there's people within the community that you just can't go there. You can't say some of the things you'd like to say. I mean, we had players complaining about other players and their work ethic and their timeliness and, their tardiness when it came to certain things. But there's certain elements that were in the room. And what I'm really proud of, each one of those guys has remained somebody I interact with. And I think it's just because we earned each other's trust at that point. And, very candidly, guys, I just told them, I said, guys, I'm not going anywhere. I'm coming in here. I'm here to fix it. And I want you to help me fix it. And George, I think of the 7, 6 of them had no trade contracts. So I just thought they were the perfect people to bring in, because they had already made the commitment. They had already said they wanted to be a part of it. And I just felt bringing those people in, it was like, guys, if it doesn't get better, I'm not going to be able to keep you guys around.
Man, this is interesting stuff. Kelly, who would have thought that we're going to rely on you for postseason baseball knowledge?
I don't know about that. I don't know if you should hand over the keys to the Cadillac yet, brother.
You know what? If you steer it off in the ditch, I'll help you. How about that?
AAA.
Okay. We'll talk baseball, World Series, postseason, you name it. We'll do it right after this.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonleyTimmons.com.
The George Plaster Show is Nashville's best sports talk, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. There's a podcast version available on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs.
So we've got ourselves a World Series that starts on Friday night, and none of us thought it was Texas, Arizona, and Arlington. But it's been a crazy postseason. Kelly, take it wherever you're going.
I'm not sure where I'm going. I just read, though, that George, I'm sorry, but I don't think your Aaron Nola deal is going to go over with the Braves. He said he wants to come back to the fields, Hoss.
I know. I saw that. Money talks.
Yeah, a lot of things are said this time of the year to keep that former team in play.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think is the biggest matchup in this World Series, there, Danny? What is the biggest deal? I mean, you got two teams that are really hot right now, and it's amazing that both these teams a couple of years ago lost over 100 games, and now they're in the World Series, the biggest of all. So, how does that happen?
Yeah, guys, I think we are such a snapshot game that 2 years ago really doesn't matter. I mean, both clubs reconstructed their teams effectively and have themselves in a real good spot. I look at the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, and I keep thinking about, we've met every week this year. Three of us have talked. There was a period where the Diamondbacks were in first place for an extended period ahead of the Dodgers and playing really, really well. And the Rangers, until the last month of the season, were the talk of baseball, the most prolific offensive team. So I'm not overly surprised that these two teams, I know I hinted at the beginning of the playoffs to you guys that I thought Arizona was going to be a tough opponent, and I really thought Texas would be good. But what we have here are two clubs that look nothing like they did 2 months ago. That did not look like an 84 or 83 win team last night in Philadelphia. In fact, the last two nights, I thought they played great, and they played well when they had to. And in Texas, Bochy has basically managed the heck out of the bullpen, and his pitching has done a fabulous job. So I think what we're walking into is a really interesting series. And I think Arizona has a chance to get out to a great start the first 2 days because they've got their two best pitchers going in games 1, 2, 5, and 6. They've got Gallen in game 1 and Kelly in game 2. Montgomery and Evaldi are really good guys. I think we're going to see a really great first 2 games. And I would not be surprised if the Diamondbacks took game 1 and made this a heck of a series. I would pick, if I had to pick a franchise, I would pick the Rangers just because I think offensively they're elite. But I think these two clubs are going to give us a very entertaining 6 or 7 game series.
So Danny, what kind of turnaround is that Kelly guy for the Arizona Diamondbacks? I was listening the other night. I mean, was he on the street or was he even playing baseball a couple of years ago? Like something happened to him and he kind of struggled and then he kind of hit his stride.
Kelly, he did what some football players have done. You know, you think about some of the guys who have gone and played in the CFL or played in the indoor league. Kelly went over and he played in Korea, in the Korean baseball league.
Korea, that's it.
And and I scouted him and he was terrific. And he got confidence. Miles Michaelis is another guy who's done that. Other guys have gone over there and gone to Japan or gone to Korea. They get confidence in their game. The competition isn't quite as good. And they suddenly start to realize, hey, I'm good and I can get guys out. The Diamondbacks have a fabulous international scouting director in Mac Suashi. He's just fantastic. And he has some really great people with him in their scouting department. And they were all over Kelly when he was a free agent 2 years ago. And I think they signed a heck of a guy. And if you take a look at their club, they've made some really good trades. They've drafted well, but they've also surrounded their players with good veteran players who've taught their young guys how to play the game right. You know, when Walker's struggling as bad as he is, and they're in the World Series, that's a pretty good statement about their ball club having good subordinate players.
Because he's where all the power came from.
And he was their top RBI guy. And, you know, George, the frustration in his swings in the last 10 days, you know, it's a sport you can't hide. You're batting every 9 times. And that elevated fastball has just dominated him in the postseason. I look for him to break out of it. He's got great character. You know, Kelly, one of the fun things about the World Series is the good ones get all the focus, and the subordinate players tend to have star platforms because you just ease up a little bit mentally and you're not quite as focused about getting them out. But sometimes the guys who are struggling just figure it out and say, hey, Carroll's a good example. What did Carroll say in the postgame yesterday? He said, I just took some time away, looked at some video, and said, hey, I'm better than this. Let's go. And look at the night that kid had last night. A rookie in a 7th game. You'd have thought he was 32 years old, the veteran guy on the club. He played with enthusiasm, kind of a reckless abandon, and that's what you need to do to play in the postseason and succeed.
How many I was going to ask you about the Carroll guy, but how many big hits can the Marte guy? I mean, good gracious. He came up with every big hit that he needed for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
He sure did. A switch hitter, and he was really good from the right side, and that's usually not his good side. I was really impressed. Excuse me one second. I was really impressed with his ability to rise to the moment. He and Carroll had critical at-bats when they were down 3 games to 1. And, you know, candidly, it's really hard to continuously get big hits in critical situations. And they both did.
George, I didn't know if you I didn't know if you wanted to say something because you look like you're trying to edge me out.
I know. And I apologize for that. I shouldn't do it. So, but I'm going to do it. So, Melvin leaves the Padres for the Giants. And to me, it has this cloud over it where he's saying, I got out of a loony bin.
Yeah, boy, when was last time you saw a guy go? We were driving back from Iowa a day ago, which I wouldn't recommend. It's it's not the most beautiful ride from Dyersville, Iowa to Denver. Nebraska gets in the way. But
wow.
Here's one of the problems, guys. There has been a lot of whispers in the game about the relationship between the general manager of the Padres, AJ Preller, and Bob Melvin. I know them both. I've worked with them both. And Bob Melvin is honestly one of the most well-respected, best people in the game. And when I saw the other day that the Giants had asked permission, now he's a Bay Area native, he's a Cal grad, he played for the Giants for 2 or 3 years. He managed the A's, so he's a known entity in the Bay Area. But normally, that request within a division is categorically denied. It's just rejected because you don't want the guy playing you 13 times in a season. But in this case, it seems like the Giants thought all along that they could get him. And they positioned their interviews as such where they got their interviews done and then asked permission for Melvin. So that way they had their backup in case the Melvin conversation didn't go well. When you say there's smoke, George, you know, the Padres were one of the most underperforming team in the game this year. Everybody thought they were going to challenge the Dodgers, and for that matter, anybody in the National League, including your Braves, for the World Series this year.
Oh, absolutely.
And instead, they never came close to being a contestant. They had some bad stuff going on in that clubhouse. And I kept hearing it wasn't Bob Melvin, it was the players. I give Melvin credit for getting out, and I give the Giants credit for hiring one of the best managers in the game. But boy, does that put the spotlight on the Padres, because allowing their manager to leave indicates that everything they said in their postseason press conference was untrue, because they said everything's great, Bob's coming back, we think we're going to be okay, we're going to rebuild this team for 2024. Well, guys, you don't let your manager go in the first month of the offseason after saying something like that if it's not true.
Okay, let's put Kelly back in on this. And this may be something you don't want to get into, and feel free to tell me, George, I don't want to get into it. But you referenced Kim Ng, I think that's how you say her last name, a few minutes ago. And it was really disappointing to me. First woman general manager in Major League Baseball history. And after 3 years, she leaves the Marlins. I was just disappointed because everything I have heard and know about her is she knows her stuff.
George, I hired her twice. I hired her as an intern in Chicago, and then she worked with me for about a 6-year period before moving on to the American League and the Yankees. And then I hired her again as my assistant general manager overseeing scouting and player development when I went to the Dodgers. I have elite respect for her. She's one of the finest people I've ever met in my life, one of the most talented, if not the most talented person I've ever met in the game. I'm really proud of her. She's a wonderful person. What happened there in Florida seems to be the same reason why Derek Jeter left.
Right.
And why other people have left. And just for her sake, I just hope everything works out for her. She's an extraordinary talent. What an odd situation when you go to the postseason for the first time in 20 years in a full season, and you're offered a 1-year extension. I mean, to me,
that's a slap
that's
in the
not.
face.
Well, and George, I give her credit. She walked away, and a lot of people might stick there and accept it and eat it. And instead she said no. And George, what she has is she has the respect of most everybody in the game, and guaranteed anybody who's worked with her. I think the Marlins look bad in this situation. And
Yeah.
it's going to be really hard for the Marlins to find somebody to come in after what just transpired. I mean, I think they're going to have the same situation as the Red Sox, only more so because the Red Sox are the Red Sox. And they have an elite history, a great ballpark, a fan following. The Marlins have none of that. And they hired somebody 3 years ago who has changed the culture of the franchise and put them in the postseason. That's not the way it's usually done. And I lost a lot of respect for the Marlins franchise, the way they handled that.
Ditto. Kelly, did you notice that neither of my first two questions involved the ATL?
You did, yeah. I
Yeah.
picked up on that. I'm sure it's coming, though.
Oh, yes. The third question
It's shocking.
is, so, Danny, if Charlie Morton says no at 40 years old, I'm retiring, they've got some serious holes in their starting rotation. Does that force free agency where maybe they don't really want to go that route?
Perhaps, George. You know, it's always an alternative. It's always an option. This time of the year is very volatile because you take a long look. You're very introspective about your team. Where are we? We know Wright's not going to be with them next year because of the surgery. Fried's a year away from free agency. They've got a very difficult task right now of trying to maintain an elite level, and part of that is on the mound. And George, certainly, I mean, they'll figure it out. But what you have to figure out is, how do I do this? Do I do this by trade, or do I do this by free agency? And one of the advantages they have is they've got a good farm system. They also have some young players under contract that they could move if they wanted to. But clearly, if Morton doesn't come back, it's hard to just rely on two guys to carry you. And in my mind, that's where they would be. They would have two elite, I don't care how you evaluate them, they're top two guys. I mean, they are. The next three guys, it's murky. It's a question mark. You can't go into 24 in that division knowing that the Mets are going to retool, knowing that the Phillies were a really good club 5/6 of the year. The National League is getting better. The Dodgers are going to re-up. This is not going to be an easy climb in 24, and I look for them to add some pieces. But George, what do they have? They've got so much stability on the rest of their club. That bodes really well for their team. It's not like they need a lot of duct tape to be competitive next year. They just need to tweak a couple elements of their club. Like every club, they have things that they want to do. They want to get better. And I'm sure that's what they're kicking around right now. But I think with their general manager being who he is, Alex will figure it out. He'll be stealth, and guys will show up in conversations and then in trades or free agent signings. And George, I don't think he'll wait. I don't think he'll wait for the winter meetings.
He never does.
No, and I agree with him, and I think that's one of the reasons why I went there, is because we have the same mindset. Let's do this now and get better and top off the club later on.
Kelly, as our baseball expert, you have the final question.
I'm just listening to all the knowledge, man. I just want to know, this is just a little silly little question, but how crazy was it that both of those teams go on the road down 3-2?
Yeah.
And win their series away, especially in Philly, where it's so hard to win. What did that take from those teams, man?
Because Vegas won a lot of money off those four.
Yeah, and Kelly, I think that's a fabulous point. When we were looking at this as fans on Monday, you certainly didn't see this coming.
No way. I said no way.
And you played, you get this. I think this points to the coaching staff. This points to the support staff. This points to the leaders on the club, and in both cases, the managers. You know, Lavello's awesome. I'm so glad he's a California guy. I got to know him really well. He's just wonderful. You could see in his post game last night, very selfless guy. Bochy is awesome. I said a week ago he manages bullpens better than anybody in the game. And I think when it comes down to back against the wall, all the cliches you have, you're down in the enemy lair, you got to have somebody at the top, at the helm, who's calm, who injects a positive, I just would say, bloodstream where you believe you can be okay. But I said something a week ago that I'm going to point back to. I really think in the playoffs, it's easier to play on the road because you are around only who you want to be around. You're around your 25 teammates, the field staff, the support staff, the people that you love, and that's it. Whereas when you're home, you have everything else going on. And I just think it's a little easier to be laser focused when you don't have the distractions that you have at home. I thought last night's game, the difference in the ball game was getting the first run. Arizona, even though they relinquished the lead and it became 1-1 and looked like it was going to be murky, 2-1, they took the crowd out of the game early in the game and kind of told the Philadelphia crowd, hey, we showed up to win tonight. And I think what we saw with those two clubs, especially, I mean, what the Astros had done to them the other night, they just got annihilated at home with all that experience. And these clubs don't have a lot of postseason experience. And I think it's just a good example of how leadership comes in many different forms, and communication is everything.
Danny, you are the best. What great perspective.
Well, let's have some fun this week, guys. We certainly didn't expect these two teams, but you know what? I think we're going to see a heck of a series. I think they're very evenly matched. They've got some very interesting players, and I think we're going to see some real good starting pitching during this series. And I think it's going to be a heck of a series, even though there's no way the three of us expected this.
Danny, I'm going to call you later. I'm interviewing Johnny Bench on Saturday, and it's
outstanding.
It's a deal in Manchester, Tennessee, with a big crowd, and I want a little bit of your perspective on him.
Outstanding. Better tomorrow than today, George.
Gotcha.
It's date night on Wednesday night, and after a long trip and a whole lot of driving, I got to keep my better half on my good side.
I got you. You're right. You tell better half I said hello.
I sure will. Bye, guys. Have a good one.
Danny Evans, man, it is great to have him on every week. We'll go to the break. Plaster bet of the day. What did I do yesterday? It was okay. Stay tuned.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in a car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Final segment on a Wednesday. It's time for Plaster's Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. All right, let's check out what happened last night. Preds lost.
Yes, they did.
But New Mexico State got a win with Diego Pavia.
Yeah, I've talked to you all about him, haven't I?
Good gracious, I don't even know who that. I still hadn't seen him play, George.
Well,
Diego Pavia.
Okay, let me ask you all this before we go any farther. Conference USA has gotten, essentially in the month of October, a ton of pub.
Every Tuesday and Wednesday night.
And if you watch, you've seen Sam Houston. A year ago, I didn't even know there was a Sam Houston as far as football. Seen Jacksonville State a bunch. We've gotten Middle. We've gotten New Mexico State. Kelly, do you think this is working for Conference USA, or would you rather them be playing the traditional Saturdays?
That's a good question, Joe. I don't. I think they're trying something new. They got to try something new. Try to get some publicity out there. Just like you just said, you didn't know who Sam Houston State was. I did because I played them a long time ago, back in the 1AA playoffs. We beat them too, in case you were wondering.
Back when you called it 1AA.
That's right. FCS is what they call it now. I think they're just trying something new, George. I don't know if it's working, but I would rather. I think college football is played on Saturday, but you look at what the NFL does, and the NFL play. They started the Monday Night Football a long time ago with the Howard Cosell and all that. They tried something new. Now they're doing Thursday night games. And I think that Thursday night game from the NFL is kind of taken a little bit away from college football when college football was the deal on Thursday night. I really do. So now you see all these teams going to Tuesday night, and I think Middle played on a Wednesday night. You got to commend them for doing something different. I like it on Saturdays, but people like you that didn't know who Sam Houston State was, I mean, hey, it puts the product out there, and I hope it works because I'm a Middle guy.
For the football junkie, it's football every night.
Yeah, all the time. It doesn't matter.
And I don't know if it's too much or if we as an American society have just said there is no too much when it comes to football.
Yeah.
It seems like that's what everybody said. Football is so popular in our country that you can do it any night and people are going to watch it. I can remember being in those National Football League Player Association meetings, and they were like, you don't even have to have people come to the stands, but if they're watching it on TV, that's how we get paid. And that's virtually what you're getting. You're getting things on TV like that. And I'm with it. I could watch football every night. I really could.
So we go back to Conference USA tonight for two different games, and here they are. FIU early in the season really had me fired up, but in recent weeks, they have taken a big old downslide. Tonight, they're home against a Jacksonville State that really has done very well in their first year at this level under Rich Rod. I'm going Jacksonville State until proven wrong that they're just better than FIU. The other one, who the hell knows? And so why did I pick it? I don't know. I really don't.
You're just putting it out there, big dog.
I almost want to scratch that one. Am I allowed to?
Nah.
It's already up there.
Keep it going. It's there.
Just roll with it.
Go Sam Houston.
But you are the commish, so you can do whatever you want, I guess.
Nah, we'll keep them. Look, the second one I don't have much of a feel for. Sam Houston has not done a lot of winning. UTEP's not exactly the 49ers. But we'll see tonight when they play. One of them, I think the FIU game's at 6 o'clock. The UTEP game is at 7. So if you're a football junkie, get your fix.
What are they on ESPN, George? Or are they on HGTV? Which one?
The second, Sam Houston, I think that game's on ESPN2, I want to say.
Is it?
And then CBS Sports Network has
one of them.
The first one.
That's Jacksonville. I got you.
Okay.
There you go.
Tomorrow on the show, a lot of things. Mark McGee to talk a little Preds. Clark Lee to talk a little Vandy football. George Plaster to talk. I finally won in the underdog picks. It's about time.
Finally.
Excuse me?
Finally.
You think you could do any better?
No.
Maybe a little bit better than one.
No.
Right now, I think you could.
No,
I think
Billy.
He could.
No, he couldn't, George. He couldn't. This is a weird year, man. This transfer portal's having an effect on stuff, man. It's crazy.
Anyway, full plate tomorrow. Until then, for Kelly Holcomb, for Billy, who thinks he could win at this, but he couldn't, George Plaster. So long, everybody.
See ya.